and welcome to Ode to Games. My name is Logan Plant, and I'm joined today by Kevin Valine. How you doing, Kev?
Doing good. How are you doing, Logan?
Doing well. And today, Zach Ross is not with us, but we are joined by a very special guest. You may have seen him on Twitter at Stealth40K or on Twitch. Today, we're joined by Stealth. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. You're a big Nintendo fan. You tweet a lot about Nintendo news and games, and a big RPG fan, and we're going to be talking about both of those today. But first, we want to ask you, did you play the Secret of Mana remake on PS4 a couple of years ago?
I did not.
Okay, I was wondering.
I did play the Trials of Mana remake that just came out for Switch and PS4, but I did not play I believe the Secret of Mana remake also came out on Vita, if I am thinking correctly.
Yeah, it did.
But I did not play that. I wanted my memories of the SNES game to kind of stay there.
You lucked out. Man, that
you did. It is, yeah.
But I heard
we played it together, and it's terrible.
I heard that the other remake...
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But, yeah, you lucked out.
Did you like Trials of Mana, that remake?
I did. That remake was absolutely fantastic, and I think it goes underrated. It's very, very good.
Yeah, I wanted to play it, but I was so burned by the Secret of Mana one that I just haven't picked it up yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, I highly recommend that.
Cool. Yeah, well, Secret of Mana, not good. Definitely skippable. But let's get into the news. Nintendo announced that Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light is coming to Switch on December 4th. This is the original Fire Emblem game starring Marth. They had a really cute video about two kids playing Smash Brothers talking about how they don't really know who Marth is because the original Fire Emblem only came out in Japan. This was released on the Famicom in 1990, and it had a remake on the DS, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, which came out in 2009. But this is the original Famicom version, localized into English for the first time, but it also has some updates. It's coming with built-in save states and rewinds and other quality of life things we've seen in Fire Emblem, like fast-forwarding through enemy turns. Coming to the eShop for $6, $5.99. And get this, it is only available to purchase until the end of the franchise's 30th anniversary on March 31st, 2021. If that date sounds familiar, it's because it's the same day that Nintendo's delisting Super Mario 3D All-Stars and Mario 35 on the Switch eShop. We'll get to that part of it in a second. But Stealth, I want to come to you first on this. What do you think of the first Fire Emblem coming to English in America for the first time?
Pretty surprising, actually. I feel like there were rumblings. I think this leaked on one of the ratings boards. But like no one was really talking about this or expecting it that day. But yeah, it's definitely a long time coming. I mean, Fire Emblem is really big now, and it is nice to have the original game localized. Obviously, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon was a remake and came out on DS, and that was like the first localized version of the first game. But I was probably most impressed with that collector's edition. That is a very pretty collector's edition.
So that comes with a replica NES cartridge, which is like see-through, and a game box. It comes with a mini Nintendo Power collectible, a deluxe art book, which has like 200 pages. Like it's massive.
Oh yeah, it's big. It's a big one.
And it comes with a digital download code of the game.
Yeah, it's a very nice collector's edition. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about this. I'm not a fan of having this be for a limited time only. But yeah, I mean, Fire Emblem Three Houses is one of my favorite Switch games. I love Fire Emblem. So the more Fire Emblem on Switch, the better. This isn't bad news.
Sounds great news. Kevin, what's your take on this?
As someone who's never played a Fire Emblem game in my life, I'm happy for the people that have gotten into the series recently with Three Houses, or if they've been introduced through Smash, that they can go back and replay the original on Switch with the quality of life improvements that they've probably come to expect from the newer titles that they've actually gotten into. And I would assume that since it's an older game, it's a little bit more brutal, so it's nice for...
Actually, it's no more or less brutal than any other Fire Emblem game. They all tend to have the same like benchmark of difficulty because they're all basically chess RPGs. Yeah. But in terms of it like looking like an NES game, that's gonna take some getting used to because I don't think many people nowadays are used to that style. Which isn't obviously doesn't look like anything current. So I think that's going to take some getting used to for people.
I think the biggest difference difficulty wise is it doesn't look like this game comes with an option for the casual mode is what it's called in Fire Emblems from Awakening and onward, where you don't lose your units permanently if they die in battle. It looks like there is permadeath, which is not an option to turn off. So I think that could be the biggest difference, because like even Zach, he played it in casual mode when he played Three Houses, and I know a ton of people who played that game play it in casual and not classic. So I think that's the main thing difficulty wise that's going to be a difference.
But I mean, for $6, it's not much to lose to at least test it out. Maybe you don't like it, maybe it's just not for you because it's one of the older style games, you can't get into it. But for $6, you can't really go too wrong with that if you've played the previous ones and you want to give this one a shot.
Yeah, they're really getting that 30th anniversary branding in there at the very tail end of the year. It's coming out in December, and it's like, well, it's only available till the end of the anniversary in March. Like, yeah, that doesn't make much sense. But I think the announcement is really cool. I mean, for $6, there's no harm in picking it up. It's such an easy thing to pick up and buy. And I hope this opens the door for other Fire Emblem localizations, because there's some other Japanese exclusive games that are still only in Japan, whether that's on the Super Famicom or a couple of others. So I think that it would be pretty cool to see that.
I think there's like 6 of them. It might be it's like 5 or 6 of them. There's another one on NES. There's like 2 or 3 on SNES. And then there's one on the Game Boy Advance that wasn't localized, and then they started with the second Game Boy Advance game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've seen it since then. So it's interesting. It's Fire Emblem's 30th anniversary, but really only the 20th in the West from when we actually first saw the franchise. So yeah, cool announcement. I'll be picking it up for $6. But we all mentioned we're not really thrilled about this next part, which is that it is expiring on March 31st, 2021. 3 games set to expire that day, as we said. Mario 35, which is currently free to Nintendo Switch Online members. Super Mario 3D All-Stars, a limited run physically, and that's also going to be delisted from the eShop. And now Fire Emblem. And the way Nintendo is kind of justifying this is with the anniversary angle. They're like, oh, the end of Mario's 35th. And now they're like, the end of Mario or Fire Emblem's 30th anniversary. So it's just a really weird move, creating this artificial scarcity that I'm not a fan of. And Stealth, you said you weren't a fan of it either. What's your take?
Yeah, it's really bizarre. It makes no sense. I mean, I understand not selling the collector's edition anymore because it's expensive, and that's one thing. Mm-hmm. And there are situations where games are removed from different shops for licensing reasons, like the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Those, they usually come out, and then like a couple years later, they have to be removed. Mm-hmm. Just because Capcom doesn't have the Marvel license at that moment, and they can't sell the game anymore. For a first party game to be removed for no reason whatsoever, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. People were telling me with Super Mario 3D All-Stars, they're doing it so then they can break out the games individually and sell them that way. Fine. Mm-hmm. But what's the excuse for one NES Fire Emblem game? Why? I just don't get it.
Yeah, Kev?
I mean, we were talking about this before, that one of the ways that they could go about it after it gets delisted to have it still be around is to put it on the NES Online subscription. Put it
on there. They might
do that in the first place. Like, why is it there right now?
I don't know why that would have to be the caveat to pull it off the shelf originally, but if we're talking about what they would do going forward, that is an option. But the other here is they don't say anything. We don't know. All we know is that it's getting delisted, and after that date, if you don't have it then, there's a chance that you just don't have it.
Yeah. I think there's someone on the sales team who's now high up that thinks that this like limited time release thing is a good idea. Because we've seen it now with like 3 games. So I don't know. I just think this is like a new thing that they're trying, and obviously it did work for 3D All-Stars because it sold like the most of any 3D Mario game up till that point. So it's people are going for it, but removing a perfectly good game, and then they were going to do it. I think with that jump, that eShop, they were going to do that. People complained, and now they're keeping it on. that's going to happen with these. It's going to happen with Mario. It's going to happen with Fire Emblem, and they're probably just going to end up keeping them, I have to imagine, because the backlash like the day before is going to be severe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the frustrating thing to me, is that there's just so many questions and speculation right now, because they're not saying what the plan is at that date. If they said, yeah, and after that point, they'll be listed individually on the eShop for $25. And it's more. It's $75 total instead of $60 for the collection. So you should get it now. You can still get them later. And then Mario 35, I mean, Tetris 99 is still going and still has a pretty large player base. And it seems like a lot of people are playing Mario 35. It was just in the news recently discovering that you can play as Luigi by beating every level and then holding L when you pick a stage. It's like, why are you getting rid of these experiences? And then Fire Emblem, I don't know. It's only $6, so I'm not complaining about the price, but I do think it's weird it's not just a part of NES Online, because to me it's a lot like Star Fox 2. It's like this game that was never playable before, and here it's bundled in with the SNES
You know why?
Classic.
Because if it's free, you can't offer that crazy collector's edition.
That's true.
I think that's the reason, and it's like, they just released Kirby Fighters too, and that's not limited. So I think they think that anniversary games need to be limited for whatever reason.
Yeah, which I don't know. I'm not a fan of that really at all. I mean, we saw what the Super Mario All-Stars when it came out on Wii. I mean, you can still find that like on eBay for like $20-$25. Like, it's not super limited, but this Fire Emblem Collector's Edition is, I think, going to be extremely expensive in a few years.
I'm not worried about Super Mario 3D Collection just because it's already sold like 3 million physical copies. There's by March, there's going to be enough out there where it's not going to get marked up to like $300 on eBay when it's over. That's fine. But yeah, you're right that the Fire Emblem Collection, they're not going to sell 1 million of those, I don't think.
Yeah, it's just definitely going to be limited.
And it's the digital download code, right? So
yeah.
If we're talking about the physical copy, that's a one-use thing. If you want the extra goodies, then hey, you can pony up the extra cash for the extra stuff that comes with it, but you're not getting the game with it if someone already bought it, because then I would assume they've already used the code unless they're a reseller, purely as a reseller.
Yeah, I just wish that they'd talk about what happens after, like what they're going to do with it, because I mean, people will be bothered if you had to buy it for this time, but then it's free after. Like, it's just going to bother people.
Yeah, that would not be a great move. And I do actually want to talk about what comes after for a second. Put on the conspiracy cap here for a moment. So all of these games are getting delisted on March 31st, which is the end of Nintendo's fiscal year. It runs April 1st through the end of March every year. Is this as simple as that's the easy date to peg to make something the end of, like, and then they can wrap all those profits into their end of year financials? Or do we think something is happening with Nintendo's online game service beyond this point that would make this model not work? Like, are they planning some sort of N64 virtual console that Mario 64 is going to be a part of? Like, is that reading too much into it, do you guys think?
I think you're giving Nintendo a little bit too much credit there. I think they're just ending it because that's a nice time to end it, because it's the end of the fiscal year and they'll be able to count up all those profits, up until that point. I don't think there's any like hidden reason, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think
probably not.
The easier explanation is that it's the end of the fiscal year and that just wrapping it all together, because it's not necessarily the end of an anniversary of when the games came out that they're picking. It's just the anniversary of March 31st. It's not the actual anniversary date. It's just a date that they decided to choose. End of the fiscal year. That sounds like the easy answer would just be to make it all come together in terms of the money that they're getting from it. But it could be something different. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, with Mario specifically, we don't know the original plans really at all. If E3 had happened, if the COVID-19 pandemic had not happened, but I almost wonder, what if Mario was originally planned for, say, a June release, and then they're like, and you have until December 31st to buy it, the end of this actual year.
I'm pretty sure that's what the rumor was, that was rumored for June. Pikmin was actually supposed to come out in April. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury was supposed to come out in September. And they had other games, so their release schedule was definitely screwed up by COVID.
So, and then I think that would have made more sense to people, like December 31st. Okay, the end of the actual 35th anniversary year. But I guess they pushed it to the date that made the next most sense to them, which is March 31st. But the average consumer doesn't know that that's when Nintendo's fiscal year ends. So to them, that's just like an arbitrary date. So it probably is nothing, and that's really the reason. Is it maybe would have been December, but now it's March because everything was pushed back a few months.
Right. Then that would just lead to believe that they just pushed it back and that there's no specific reason why they have certain dates for something planned after that. Just they moved it a couple months after that so people could actually buy these games and they wouldn't just be delisted in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. But really weird. I don't want to see this be a regular thing moving forward from Nintendo. Hopefully they see the feedback that people really don't like this, but maybe the crazy sales numbers will be enough for them to continue doing it because it is going to work. Like, Kevin, you're going to buy Fire Emblem. You've never played a Fire Emblem game before.
I was about to say that. I hate that they do this, but they're going to get people like me to buy the game. Because if it wasn't going to be pulled off of the shelves, they're probably just like, I'm not a Fire Emblem player. I'm cool for the people that want it, but I'm not going to need it. But now that it's getting pulled off, or at least that's what we assume is going to happen, I feel like I need to get it just to have it for when it does get delisted.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just for these special anniversary releases. Like Pikmin 3 is not limited. Right. 3D World isn't limited. So I don't think that's going to be a thing going forward with like their big like monthly releases. I think it's just for these, kind of anniversary special situations. 3D All Stars makes no sense to me whatsoever. That will sell forever, if you let it. But I mean, Fire Emblem, I understand more. I don't like it, but I understand it more than the 3D All Stars collection.
Yeah. So actually, I was just thinking about this. This idea just popped in my head. I don't think Nintendo has had a first-party anniversary game release since digital downloads became a thing for them. Because digital downloads have only been a thing on 3DS. You have the DSi stuff and the Wii stuff, but full retail releases have only been a thing to download on the 3DS, the Wii U, and the Switch. And thinking back, I don't think either of those systems got a big anniversary release. So it's possible Nintendo's always had this philosophy that anniversary things should be limited, but because they've only been physically until this point, they've never had to worry about that. But now that they are playing in the digital space, they're like, oh, we still need this to be limited, just like the physical copies of like the Kirby Anniversary Collection on Wii, the Mario All-Stars thing we already talked about. So maybe that's their mindset, is they've never done this in a digital space before.
I don't know. I mean, it's I'm sure that this decision was made in some meeting somewhere in Tokyo, but I honestly it just doesn't make sense to me. It just makes no sense to pull a game that doesn't need to be pulled.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
What's the next anniversary title that's going to get pulled here? What's the next anniversary coming up?
Zelda.
Zelda.
Yeah, there's Zelda, but they won't, if they do like a Zelda collection and I don't know if that's not going to go over well. And also Metroid, that 30th or 35th anniversary is also coming up.
Yeah, that'll be the 35th for Metroid, but they didn't care at all for Metroid's 30th. So we'll see if they do anything.
No, we'll see. But Zelda, they're going to do something for Zelda. If they did something for Fire Emblem, they're going to release some game for Zelda.
You would hope.
But I mean, I just hope that's not limited. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, like if they bring over Twilight Princess and Wind Waker in like a collection, and it's like, you can still go buy these on Wii U, and they're like, you only got 6 months to buy these. That would be a bad look. That'd be a really bad look. All right, let's move on from that. Sticking with Nintendo, though, video game analyst Michael Pachter said earlier this week that Nintendo should scrap the Switch and only have the Switch Lite. And he said that most people only play their Switch in handheld mode, and so we could just get rid of the dock altogether and have like a USB stick for people who still want to play on their TV. Stealth, you were saying before the show, maybe these were taken a bit out of context, so you're not being too hard on these comments.
I mean, I haven't watched I haven't seen the original interview, or if this came from a video, I haven't seen it. So there's always a chance that maybe he didn't mean it exactly that way. But yeah, that's just a bad idea. And as an analyst, I understand. Like, analysts look at it from costs and profits, and obviously the Lite is cheaper. So then he's probably thinking, okay, it's cheaper, it'll sell more over the holidays, or it'll sell more. that way, or they can lower the price and it'll be really cheap. But I know from personal experience, I play on the TV with the Switch probably 75% of the time,
Same.
and then handheld maybe 25%. So for me, I mean, I feel like the whole great thing about the Switch is you have the choice to play however you want. That's kind of the big aspect of it. And also, if you look at like Japan, the weekly Famitsu sales numbers, it's not like the Switch Lite is selling that much better than the original. I'm pretty sure the original outsells it most of the time, I think.
Mhm.
I would have to look that up, but it's not like a huge disparity for the Lite where it's like, oh, the Lite's selling 90% of the units. That's not the case. Yeah, it just wouldn't make any sense.
No, it wouldn't. And like the Switch is a great system for indies. It's kind of become the home for indie games since it launched in 2017. People love popping that thing out of the dock and playing those, but you don't want to play Breath of the Wild 2 on that screen. You want to play it on your huge TV. So it was a silly comment. Not sure what he really meant. I mean, sometimes analysts just have to come up with new ideas, so maybe that's all this was. But Kev, do you have any thoughts to add?
Yeah, I feel like they've got the perfect setup here with the original model where you get to have the choice of if you want to play it on the TV or handheld. I personally probably play 90% of my time on the TV. I rarely use it in handheld. But then they have the option of the Switch Lite for the people that know that playing on the TV isn't a priority for them and it doesn't matter and they can get the handheld version. I don't know why you would cut out the option for a wide majority of people who do play most of the time on the TV. Why would you just get rid of that? Because that serves a great amount of people. I don't understand what the point would be to cutting that out.
Especially right now, the Switch Lite came out 5 months before everyone started staying home and not going anywhere. And I feel like for me personally, I have a Switch Lite, but it became a lot less relevant once the pandemic started and I wasn't traveling or going places or having a reason to take my Switch out of the house. So to strip that away, especially in like the current climate, just doesn't make any sense.
They're both selling. Switch is breaking records in Japan and in the US. In terms of dollar sales. So it's like, why mess with this right now? It does, things aren't bad where you have to shake it up. Then I would maybe understand a little bit more where he's coming from. But when Switch is breaking records, why would you remove half, the units, or the big skew? It just doesn't. It really just doesn't make any sense, and that's why I'm leaning toward he didn't mean it this way, or there's something missing here.
Yeah, well, March 31st, 2021, the standard Switch will no longer be available. Switch Lite only from that point on. Just kidding, but we'll move on from that. Stardew Valley is getting split screen co-op in update 1.5. This is confirmed for PC and consoles. PC can have up to 4 people playing split screen, but some consoles may be limited to 2, and this is confirmed for all current consoles that Stardew is on, so PS4, Xbox, Switch. So, Kevin, this is pretty exciting, huh?
Yeah, I usually just do online, but man, I feel like by the end of the development of Stardew Valley, I have a hard time thinking any other game in this vein is going to be able to top it. Just because this dude's been working on it for so many years, even post-release, and he's basically added every feature that you could ever ask for. Even the multiplayer originally, I thought was a stretch. And then he got that in there, and now he's doing co-op on the same console or same PC, up to 4 players on PC and 2 on consoles, depending. Man, I feel like you've got every option in Stardew Valley, and I just don't see any other game getting to its height. He's just adding everything, and then of course there's all the other new content that he's adding, more different types of crops and things. He had a vote for the new crop as well, and I'm sure he's going to add new buildings and other things like that, and new end game things, which is a big point of 1.4. So I just don't think anything's going to come close to Stardew Valley after this. It's just so much.
Yeah, Stardew's crazy because like there's all these indie games that take inspiration from like tentpole video game franchises, but Stardew Valley outdoes like the Harvest Moon franchise in so many ways. It's almost made Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons significantly less relevant than they were in a pre-Stardew world, and I think split screen co-op just expands that, like you were saying.
Yeah, man. I just think back to when I was a kid and playing like Harvest Moon DS with my cousin, and we'd just be sitting on like the bed playing side by side and just playing that and imagining what it would have been like to have one console and just be able to play Stardew split screen. Like, that would have blown my mind back then. Like, Stardew is everything I ever wanted as a kid with the Harvest Moon games.
Stealth, have you played Stardew Valley at all?
I have never played Stardew Valley, but I have watched, people stream it and, people play it on YouTube. So, I do know what it's about. And yeah, it's a very impressive game. And yeah, I mean, I kind of gravitate more toward Rune Factory.
Rune Factory,
just because that's farming and RPG stuff. And as you know, I'm big into that. So that's kind of where I gravitate toward. But yeah, I mean, Stardew Valley, wasn't that like developed by like one person?
Dude,
or something crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it puts most farm sim games to shame. I feel like you have Stardew Valley, you have Animal Crossing. It's not farming, but it's kind of the same vein of a game.
Yeah.
You have Stardew Valley, you have Animal Crossing, but yeah, the Rune Factory games have not been at the level of those two for sure.
No. Well, at the very least, Rune Factory now having that edge of having the RPG elements and having.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think Rune Factory 4 Special on Switch is at that level. Like, that's a very, very good game, and Rune Factory 5 looks good. But yes, I mean, Stardew Valley it's just very impressive.
But just like thinking about where Story of Seasons sits now, they had the Friends of Mineral Town remake that came out, and I heard that was really good. But for me personally, I'm at the point where Stardew Valley has all of my needs covered for a basic Harvest Moon game, and then if I want to switch things up, I'm just going to go play Rune Factory. I've got Rune Factory 4 Special on my Switch and Rune Factory 5 on the way. I wonder where Story of Seasons is going to fit in. Harvest Moon, the other series, is already dead. Those games are awful now, but I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, isn't I think it's called One World, maybe? Is that new Harvest Moon game?
Yeah.
It looks bad, but it's coming out next year, right?
I think so.
I mean, coming out in a year with Rune Factory 5, probably not a great idea because Rune Factory 5 is going to be good. Yeah, that game does not look good.
At this point, I think they're just banking on people remembering the Harvest Moon name and be like, "Oh, I remember this from when I was a kid," and then buy it because it's garbage.
I don't think the original SNES game is available on the eShop or part of the.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, but I mean that game is real. I mean the original game is very, very good. So I would like to see it like at least available.
Yeah. Console back in the day.
Some of the old Harvest Moons are so good, like Harvest Moon 64. I played so much of that when I was a kid. That's very good. Yeah, going back to it though, the days are like so fast. Like you have no time to do anything in Harvest Moon 64. Like playing it, it's like, man, like you run to town to talk to people, like your day's over. Like
and
it's crazy.
It's not really the same. It's not the same at all. But now Switch has like 10 Atelier games, and those are RPGs, and they really aren't. They're not. They're like collecting sims. I mean, it kind of has that same aspect where you go out in the field, you collect things. It doesn't have like the crafting element or anything. But there are options for that kind of collecting, doing stuff game that people haven't really looked for Harvest Moon.
Yeah, and even Minecraft can scratch that itch for people. If you want to just build a farm, you can go build a farm in Minecraft in a few hours. So, yeah, definitely wonder where Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons goes from here. But
Story of Seasons specifically, again, Harvest Moon is dead. Those games are really bad. But I do wonder what's next for Story of Seasons because you just have so much competition with all these other games with Stardew, with Rune Factory, and then so many other games trying to catapult off of Stardew's success and get into their own little niches. There's a bunch of different like Stardew-like games with different settings, running a bar, running, Graveyard Keeper. I do wonder. Story of Seasons has, even though they're fine games, I feel like since the name change, they've been the same game over and over. They're going to have to do something different with the next couple of titles because they're getting outdone on multiple fronts.
Except they had that Doraemon spin-off that surprisingly came to the States, which I was really surprised that got localized.
Yeah, cool that it did, but yeah, no one knows what Doraemon is in America.
Yeah, but Stardew, cool update for that. It just keeps growing, which is pretty amazing to see. Let's move on, though. Sucker Punch job listing may hint at a Ghost of Tsushima sequel. So this is for a narrative writer position that asks for someone interested with a desire to write stories set in feudal Japan. And obviously they're going to continue this franchise. This is kind of like a duh piece of news, but wanted to throw it in. This is PS4's fastest selling first party original IP debut, so the best-selling new IP of the generation to this point, and they're obviously going to continue it. Just got that huge update with multiplayer. Stealth, have you checked out this game at all?
Have not played it, watched a lot of it. Again, when a game sells that much, a sequel is a natural conclusion. That's for any game, really.
Yeah.
So not. I mean, even Last of Us, which is supposed to be like a standalone thing, got a sequel. You know, most Sony franchises do get sequels. So this just made plenty of sense.
I mean, and then Sucker Punch has done it too. Sly Cooper got a few games, and then Infamous got a bunch of sequels also. So it just makes sense.
Anything specific that you want to see from a sequel, Logan, as the one person that's played the game?
Yeah, I adore this game, Stealth. I've been gushing about it for weeks on the show. I absolutely love Ghost of Tsushima. I just finished it last weekend.
I've seen like all the screenshots people take of it, and it looks very good.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous game. The combat system is incredible. I have some final thoughts on that in a bit, but yeah, for a sequel, I don't really know where they go, just based on kind of the, I guess, historical standpoint of the battle and the time period they're basing this on. So something I saw people on Twitter talking about was that there were multiple attempts for the Mongols to invade Japan. And what if the sequel jumps forward however many years to the next one of that, has a new cast of characters, and kind of just has a new adventure? Because, I mean, obviously I can't spoil anything, but after I finished it, I'm like, I really don't know how you make a sequel to that game with this same set of characters. Like, I really don't know how it would work. So I would love to see this franchise continue, and I wouldn't mind if it was kind of this like anthology thing where it was like these separate entries in this same franchise that really didn't have anything to do with each other. That would be cool to me. And maybe like the first game would be like a legend that they talked about in the second game. So there'd be like these cool references back to what you did in the first game, and they talked about it like either through a historical standpoint or like this legend. Did you ever hear the legend of the ghost? That could be really interesting. So yeah, I definitely want to see a sequel on PS5. This is one of the most gorgeous games on PS4, so I can't even imagine what they'd be able to do on PlayStation 5. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to dive into the multiplayer too. This is a really cool new IP for Sony that came in at the tail end of this generation.
Yeah, I got to get around to it. There's just too much on my plate.
You do.
I'm saying that every week.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Zach, I was saying, our other co-host, Stealth, I have been trying to get him to pick up Ghost because I know he'll love it. And there's these 2-player story missions I want to do with him. And I find him this cheap copy online. It was like $40 on eBay. I send it to him, and he always does this. He's like, "Oh, I'll pick that up," and then it sells before he does. And he's like, "Yeah, I wanted to play Ghost, but I've gotten distracted. I'm replaying the entire Uncharted series."
Wait,
so
that's
Zach,
what he's doing now?
Yeah, Zach is going back to the beginning. Uncharted 1 through 4. I did that earlier this year. He's doing it again now. And it was inspired by the Uncharted movie set photos that came out this week. So we saw Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. We saw a couple other images that we don't really know what's going on. A book with some clues on it, like an artifact in this like hidden temple. It all looked very Uncharted. Kevin, big Uncharted fan. Thoughts on these initial photos?
It's just cool to see something real. Because I feel like every time we talk about the movie, it's like, oh, this director left. Oh, they've got a new director. Oh, we've got Tom Holland. Is Mark Wahlberg going to be in the movie? Like, all these just speculations. Directors leaving.
Yeah.
The 7th director that they're on now. So it's nice to see people on set, to see things actually being filmed and worked on. And it's more real now that this thing's actually being made and is going to come out. I think that's the biggest thing in these photos.
Yeah, we also saw a picture of Tom Holland talking with Nolan North, the voice actor for Nathan Drake in the game. So he visited the set. This was an old photo. It was from a while ago, back before I think it got shut down. But so he's been there. Yeah, they show him wearing the costume. He's got the Sic Parvis Magna ring. He looks like he has a gunshot wound in the arm. Very Uncharted. So Stealth. Any thoughts on this movie?
Not a big fan of video game movies, I must say. I think the last video game movie I saw was Mortal Kombat in like 1990, whenever that came out. That's the last video game movie I saw. I do like the Uncharted series. I haven't played them all, but I've played some of them. So I like it, and I mean, it could turn out good, but it's kind of a wait and see thing for me.
You kind of have to wait and see with literally every video game movie. Like Sonic, I thought that thing was going to be awful, and I surprisingly actually really liked that movie.
And then we also got a first trailer for the Monster Hunter movie, and that looks so disappointingly bad. So that depressed me. So you just never know until it's out.
I absolutely hate the trailer for the Monster Hunter movie. Yeah, it is. It does not look good at all.
Yeah, it is bad.
Yeah, but hopefully this Uncharted one turns out good. I mean, Uncharted is so movie-like, so I can see it going either way. Like, maybe it can't outdo the game's storytelling because it has this 8-hour adventure to take you on to grow these stories and characters. Maybe it can't do that in 2 hours, or maybe because it is such a cinematic series, it will translate very well and be a great movie. Yeah. I can really see this one going
I mean, it is more based in reality. We've seen movies like this before. Indiana Jones, where there's an artifact he has to hunt, or I think Treasure Book with Nicolas Cage. Oh. So there are movies like that's more. It's more rooted in a little bit of reality, like a treasure hunting movie. We've seen movies like that, so I mean, we know they work.
Yeah, well, Uncharted is basically video game Indiana Jones. Right. So you like to think it'll work.
Movie Indiana Jones, but Uncharted.
Yeah, and Indiana Jones 5. Who the heck knows what's going on with that? So maybe this will. I think this will probably be better than that movie will end up being, if I had to guess, based on the last Indiana Jones movie.
Better than the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is the question.
I sure hope so. That movie is awful. That was the first Indiana Jones I saw. I saw that one before I saw the first 3. I'm like, man, this movie sucks. And I just didn't get it. Yeah, it was real bad.
They're actually good.
But National Treasure 3 is still in development hell.
Is it? When did National Treasure
2
come out? Is it like 2000?
Like 2009?
Yeah, it was like a long time ago.
It was a very long time ago. And there's supposed to be a third one. They're talking about making it a Disney Plus show instead. There's apparently some other Disney Plus National Treasure show not related to Nicolas Cage. Yeah, I love National Treasure 1 and 2. I adore those movies. So you do. You gotta have Nick Cage. Anyways, back to games. Something I wanted to mention: Godfall, a game I have some slight interest in. PS5 launch game, hoping to play it at some point co-op down the line. It had some previews for how loot progression works, and for being a PS5 launch title, I was actually impressed with the depth I saw from these previews. It kind of went through loot and progression, and they really talked about the developer's philosophy of you need to be happy with the loot you have, but also have the desire for more loot, which is really the core of why these games work, why Monster Hunter works, why Borderlands works. So that core tenet of this, that they are really thinking about that and have that down, I think is important. So just wanted to mention, I don't know if you guys saw anything about Godfall this week online, but just wanted to mention those previews are out there if you have any interest in that one.
Did it push you for or against it any more than you already were?
I think more for, because it actually looked deeper than I thought it was going to. Like I thought it wasn't going to be as complex in its systems as it actually did look from these things. So yeah, I'm excited about it. This is one I'm going to wait on. I'm not happy it's $70. I do not like this. I'm not thrilled about the $70 price increase. So I'll be waiting on this one for a price drop. But yeah, I think it looks cool. Nice. And it's an original launch game, which is a rare thing to say for the next gen lineup.
Yeah, when you just got all the cross platforms, then you got Xbox's lineup, which that's something.
Well, yeah. Xbox doesn't have a first-party lineup.
Not yet. They got one coming. In a few years, I think they'll have a pretty good one. But yeah, really, if you pick up an Xbox Series X anytime in the first year, you're really just like investing in the future and enjoying Game Pass. Yeah, Kevin's not picking up anything next gen for a while. I'm getting a PS5 on launch. Stealth, what's your take on next gen, real quick?
I'm getting I have no interest in the Xbox at all. Mm-hmm. I will have to get. I wasn't quick enough to get one at launch, but I will get a PS5 shortly thereafter. Obviously, I'm gonna have to play Final Fantasy 16 on it. There's a lot of other Japanese games I'm gonna have to play on it. So I mean, I'm pretty content going PS5, Switch, and the occasional PC. Yeah. I mean, you're a big JRPG guy. Xbox is just not the place for you. I mean, even that, there's just really nothing exclusive to it that looks remotely interesting to me at all.
I mean,
that's fair.
If you have the option for PC for the occasional title, then if there is something that Xbox brings out you're interested in, let's go play it on
It's PC. Out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the main reason I could see myself getting an Xbox down the line is, like I said, $70 games that are going to get added to Game Pass and no service on PS5. That would be a better place to play those instead of paying full price for those. So that I could see that as a boon, but I'm not interested in the Xbox anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think for PlayStation, I think Spider-Man looks good right away.
Mm-hmm.
I think even Sackboy, which I think is PS4 and PS5, that looks good. I mean, even just like the initial batch of games looks better than anything Xbox has exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I'm very excited for Sackboy. I mean, it looks like Super Mario 3D World.
It looks good.
Yeah.
It looks good. There's definitely not enough 3D platformers, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of, I don't think we talked about it at all after it came out, but people really like Crash Bandicoot 4, and that was cool to see. I don't think we ever talked about it on the show.
Yeah, people like it. It didn't sell nearly as well as I thought it would. It only had a limited amount of time before the NPD came out, but I think it debuted at like number 11.
Yeah, it did.
But it didn't have a full month, so to be fair, but I feel like it came out, got good reviews, and then everybody stopped talking about it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it would have sold like crazy if it had been $40 or $50.
Or on the Switch too, which people play platformers on the Switch. I think it will be coming to the Switch probably next year, but this is too late.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, Kev, that's it for our news this week.
Yeah, the trilogy sold so well. That thing just came out and was...
Yeah.
People were talking about that game for forever. It just kept on selling. And then the fact that this comes out. And unlike the trilogy, I feel like people have already kind of stopped talking about it.
Which is a shame because it looks fantastic. But I mean, I'm part of the problem too. I didn't buy it. I didn't contribute to its sales. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me personally, I was just not going to spend $60 on it. If I could, I would just get the trilogy instead. You know,
it just came out at a rough time, being $60 a month and a half before next gen. Like, I don't know. I just think it came out at kind of a rough time to be successful, I think, in just the circumstances. So I think it'll have a long tail, though. If we do see it drop to 40 or 30 on Black Friday, I think it'll be a popular pickup. And then if it does come to Switch, I think you'll see a big boost then. But yeah, I want to see it do well because I want to see more of these 3D platformers. Like a new Spyro. I want Toys for Bob to make Spyro 4 now, since they're the ones who handled both Crash 4 and the Spyro trilogy. I want to see them go back to that well and make a new Spyro because I really, really loved the Spyro trilogy. I never played Crash. It looked too hard and frustrating compared to like 3D Mario for me, so I never picked up the Insane trilogy.
It's a little brutal. Playing the first one, not playing the second or the third, which I've heard are better games. I just played the first one. Once you get to the bridge levels, it's just like, all right, well, fun's over. Gotta run on the road. But at the very least, it was a good game, you know?
Yeah, that's true. All right, Kev, that's it for our news hits.
All right. Well, I guess we have Stealth here, so what's been on your plate, gaming-wise, the last couple weeks? What you been playing?
I haven't had a ton of time to play anything, but I've actually been playing from the Super Mario 3D All Stars collection. I've been playing Super Mario Sunshine for the first time.
Nice.
I got up to like 20% when it came out, and then I just put it down. I just didn't have the patience for it. But now, like I'm probably 75% through now, so I've been going through that. Before that, I played Super Mario 64 again for the first time in like 10 years. So I've been going through the All Stars collection.
Curious what your thoughts are. First, as someone who didn't play much of Sunshine when it first came out, how are you feeling about it?
Beautiful game. Looks as good as anything now, I think.
It holds up.
It's an infuriating game, from a gameplay perspective. It's infuriating. I mean, there's some parts where I'm like, wow, this was super fun, and then other parts I want to throw the controller out the window. There's an amazing 3D Mario game buried in there somewhere, but it's just a good Mario game. And a good Mario game is fine because Switch is going to have like all the 3D Mario games but one. So a good Mario game on Switch is fine.
Yeah, I was saying this to Kevin earlier this week that I think I compare Super Mario Sunshine to how I felt playing Sonic Heroes back a couple years ago when we played that together, because the first couple levels you play are just fantastic and they're bright and sunny and just so much fun because they're easy and they're not cumbersome. And then you get deeper into the game and they just start throwing this crap at you that is not fun, is not intuitive, and it's just not really all that well designed in some cases. And that's how this game feels. And it's like, man, if they could have just ran with what they had for the first couple hours of the game, this could have been a phenomenal experience. But instead, it gets really difficult.
I mean, it's a very good game, but all the other 3D Mario games are amazing. So that's kind of the difference. And, it's fine. Like, now with Switch having every other 3D Mario game, 3D World's coming out. It's fine if Sunshine, is appreciated for what it is. It doesn't need to be like the one Mario game of the generation that blows everybody's mind. It could just be appreciated for what it is. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. Like I don't have the expectations like this needs to be Galaxy level or this needs to be Odyssey or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's certainly not. It's certainly not as good as those.
No.
How do you feel about the pure platforming sections where they take away FLUDD? Because those moments infuriated me as a kid, and I was wondering how it was going to be going back to it now, and they still piss me off.
Yeah, they're hard, but honestly, the levels that annoy me the most are those levels, but you have to get the red coins and it's timed. But even though you have the FLUDD, for some reason, like the coins are always a little bit higher than where I'm hovering or lower, so I have to like turn back around. So those levels have been more annoying than the pure platforming ones. Where I'm not timed and I don't have to get coins. I just have to get through it.
Yeah. See, I just avoided all those on my second playthrough, knowing that you don't have to do that, and just be like, oh, I just have to.
No,
get to the seventh
I mean, I think I think you only need like 75 shines to access the last area.
It's not based on the amount of shines you have. You just have to get to the 7th shine in every world and spray Shadow Mario. So all of the shines in Delfino Plaza, all the blue coins.
Thanks for the spoiler. I haven't gotten that far yet.
And
it's okay.
the eighth shine of every world is completely meaningless for progression, which is.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I mean, I'm trying to 100% it. I'm trying, so we'll see.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, I've 100%ed every level, but now I'm on like the second to last level. So.
Okay.
And it's so weird. I haven't played that much of it. I played it for like 4 hours.
But I will say this: the pinball level,
Pachinko,
yeah, the Pachinko. I had to go on YouTube to kind of copy what they were doing, and then kind of like cheese that level.
Does that even help though? Because I feel like the physics just go out the window.
It does. I learned that if you this is like next level stuff, but if you're on the bumper that makes you shoot up. If you don't press anything, you'll always land on one of the pegs, and then from there you can do certain things to get to each one.
Oh wow!
But I didn't know that, so when I was first doing it, I was like trying to really hover, but you just can't do that. But yeah, there are ways where you don't press anything, you land on this peg. You tilt slightly forward, you land on this one, and then it shows you how to get the coins. That's the only way I was able to do it.
That sounds abysmal. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean that level isn't good design. There's no skill involved in it at all. It's luck and basically cheesing the level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done the leaf on the poison water? I remember that one also sucked.
Yeah, it took me. I died 15 times just getting there.
Oh yeah, because you have to get because it's a pain to get.
Yeah, you have to go on Yoshi. You have to go with Yoshi, and apparently, like if you don't press it, Yoshi will disappear after a time.
Right, because
I don't know how that.
Out.
Yeah, so a few times I was like almost there, and then he disappeared, and then I threw the controller. But I got there and died, and I haven't tried it again since. I'm probably gonna have to look that one up on YouTube too, just to see the best way to do it.
Yeah. See, that's
Super Mario Sunshine is so weird. It's so weird because, like, what you're saying, Ked, you have to beat the first 7 shines in every level. No other 3D Mario is like that. 64, you can go to all these different paintings and do whatever you want in them. Galaxy, you have choices. You just have to get a certain number of stars. That's the cap is stars, moons in Odyssey, and then 3D World, it's green stars. 3D Land, you just progress through. But Sunshine's the only one where it's like, oh man, if you hate this level, too bad. You got to get all 7. Yeah, that's brutal. It's such an anomaly in the 3D Mario series, which has changed a lot. 64, Sunshine, Galaxy, the 3D games, and Odyssey are all very different from each other. But Sunshine is by far the weirdest. And it's almost like that Majora's Mask thing. Like, they followed up a groundbreaking game, which is a really weird entry. It's a really weird game.
Yeah, it's interesting playing through it again and hopping between level and being like, yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then you get to the next level, I'm like, I hate this. This is awful. And then I hop to the next level, I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, you never know. Some of the levels are super fun, and then some of them are just garbage. Like, but you have to play them, except for the ones that you don't, and then those are just meaningless. But you know, good luck on the 100% for Sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
whether it's the leaf or whether it's the blue coins, man, there's always something.
Yeah, I mean, the blue coins is easy enough. You just have to know where they are, or you look it up and you do it that way. But I did the pachinko, like I said, because of YouTube. The leaf one, I still have to do.
Man, I can only imagine with the blue coins, specifically when the game first came out, people doing the guides for that and having to figure out which levels had the specific blue coins. Because in like an area, they're not all just in the one area. They're in specific levels that the blue coins are only available in. That must, like, the first people to go through that and find all the blue coins. I don't envy them at all. Sunshine.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and thoughts on 64? Anything stand out to you for that?
You know, it doesn't age particularly well. You know, it looks fine. The camera angle, the camera's a disaster. Yeah. But considering, I mean, it was basically the best 3D camera at the time. I said on Twitter, you have to like understand that game from in the context of when it was released. 20 years ago, that was the most advanced 3D platformer ever made. It traced. I mean, it blazed the path for a lot of other games. But now, when you have a system that has Galaxy on it, has Odyssey on it, is going to have 3D World on it. There's better 3D Mario games, but it's not a bad game. It's just not the best anymore.
Yeah. Going back to Sonic Heroes for a second, I feel like Mario 64 also goes into that, where it's fun for the levels, and then when it asks you to get a little zestier with the platforming, that's when the cracks start to show up, not only with the camera, but with Mario's controls just being a little weird.
And I mean, some of the missions are also pretty basic. Like, there's a few that you can literally beat within a minute. Just, they're kind of basic missions. But again, this was like, it wasn't the first 3D platformer, but it was the first really good one. So, it just, now we're all spoiled with better Mario 3D platformers. So, you have to kind of play it, knowing when this game came out in 1996, there was nothing else like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that it can do a really good job still of surprising you and just being able to collect the stars out of order, being able to just kind of do whatever. I feel like people who have not played the game before are in for a lot of surprises that you can still have with the game, which is pretty cool for a game being that old.
Yeah, for sure.
Logan, what you been up to?
So like I said, I finished Ghost of Tsushima. I absolutely loved it from start to finish. I thought it just got better as I went on. I loved the third act. It's very brief compared to the first two, but it is just so good. I declared this in a text to Kevin. It's my favorite combat system of all time in any game ever. I vibe with that combat really hard. Switching stances, I got really into. It's really quick. You just hold R2 and it pauses the action, like goes into a slow-mo. Very similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake. When you open the command menu and it kind of goes slow-mo. And then you just swap stance if you're fighting a brute or a shield guy or a sword guy or a spear guy. And it's so satisfying. And I also love the moments where it kind of lets the game breathe when you're just riding your horse in this field and exploring these shrines. And the exploration is amazing. I love how it uses the smoke in the air to guide you to different things. Because you really don't have to use your map in that game if you don't want to. You can find stuff without it. But I really liked the story too. How it all wrapped up was very impactful, and I thought extremely well done. I really loved that too. So, yes, is easily one of my favorite PS4 games, one of my favorite games of the year. I can't recommend it enough. I really had a great experience.
How goes the platinum?
Yeah, I love it so much. I have 0 platinum trophies to my name, but I'm going for the platinum in this game. It's good. There's a lot to do. Like, I think that was something in the reviews, is that this is an open world game stuffed with things to find. There's like 40 foxes. There's like 40 shrines. There's so many things to find, and I don't recommend doing that on your playthrough. I recommend just exploring and doing the main story when you're ready to. But I mean, the game throws you right back in after you finish it. And now that there's no more story content to do, it's fun to still be able to live in that world, just checking off all the boxes I missed. So it's going to be a while, but it's fun and it's going well.
Nice. Yeah, I need to play it at some point.
Yeah, you do. Definitely. Yeah. And then besides that, more Monster Hunter World. Just always. I passed the 300-hour mark this week, so that was my big milestone.
Will you be playing Rise?
Absolutely, have it pre-ordered already. That game looks gorgeous.
And are you interested in stories? Because that's the one I'm interested in, like more than Rise.
I bought the first one on 3DS when it was on sale after 2 was announced. I know you said this on Twitter still. That looks like one of the best looking games on Switch. Stories,
yeah, I
mean,
mean, we've only seen, I think, one screenshot of the overworld, and it's kind of a far back view, and it doesn't look as good. But we don't know that because we haven't really seen too much gameplay. But in terms of like the cutscenes, it's unbelievable. Yeah. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah, so I'm excited to try that one out, but yeah, just still wrapping up World.
It's just funny that as soon as they announced the end of the World content, they announced Rise like a week later.
Yeah. Zach and I are the ones who play Monster Hunter still, and we were talking about how we were sad that World was ending, and then literally days later, we're like, oh, we only have to wait 6 months for the next huge batch of content. So looking forward to that. But I was going to talk about my Wii U collection a bit, but we got another segment we want to get to, so I'll save that for next week.
Yeah, there's some stuff there. I played Streets of Kamurocho for like 20 minutes.
Nice.
That came out on Steam, part of Sega's 60th anniversary.
Another limited release for like 2 days this time.
2 days, yeah. And being in a completely different time zone, I was like, I don't know when it's available. Like, I gotta like wait later, and then it could just vanish. So that was fun. But I got that, played it, and realized that I don't think I like I just don't like the Streets of Rage style games. I think it's just not for me playing through it. It was cool, just to play through it with a Yakuza skin on it, but it's only one level. It repeats. It just gets harder and harder as you go along. It's got Ichiban as an unlockable character. It's cool that all that's there, and it's free, so I'm not gonna like rag on it at all. But I just realized that that style of game is not for me. But I'm glad that I played it. Other than that, what you gonna say?
How's FF7 remake going?
It's good. I was playing it just a little bit before this. It is a good time. Yeah. Chapter 12, I think.
Oh, nice.
Last week talking about Wall Market, and that has probably my favorite moment so far. When the game decides to turn into a rhythm game. It's like, it was really good. I really liked it. I really liked how they pulled that whole thing off. But that entire area I really liked a lot. Combat's still a good time. Just opening up more and more as you go along with the new weapons. I remember the thing that you were talking about, though, when the game first came out, of not knowing when enemies would have stealable weapons.
Yeah, those weapons you could and not ever get.
I had a moment where I went into a boss fight and I assessed him, and he had an item that I could steal. So I just turned the game off, turned it back on, equipped the steel materia, and then went in on that fight and got the rod. But I feel like that's probably my only major gripe, is that with
was that the ghost carriage boss fight?
It was.
I missed that weapon, and it's like one of the best ones for Aerith, and I missed
it.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm glad I noticed that, because I also keep forgetting to like scroll down sometimes on the descriptions. So I just did that. I'm like, oh, he's got that. So I feel like the materia, and just after or before every single boss fight, I just save. I have my equip materia. I go into the fight, see what their loadout is, what they're good against, what they're weak against, if they have a weapon, and then if I need to respec, I just quit out and respec. It's funny how some of these boss fights just break. They either break if you have the right materia, or they become brutal if you don't have the right materia.
But it's fun stacking your materia and figuring out the setup for each fight. Like, I do really enjoy that.
Yeah, if you know what you're going up against, it is fun to kind of do the loadout. But not knowing beforehand can be a little bit annoying. You just have to boot it back down, or you can try and beat it, with the inoptimal materia. It's still
Stealth. Did you play Final Fantasy VII Remake?
I did.
Mhm.
I have a very good game, probably the best looking game that Square has ever made.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Pretty.
The ending. I'm not going to spoil
I have
anything.
not gotten there. No, please don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like the original story, I like. Then when these newfangled Square Enix writers start to change, that I don't like.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's good. Ooh, do I consider
Mhm.
it a top 3 RPG of the year? I don't. I think there's better ones. I think Persona
Mhm.
5 Royal is better. I think Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is better. And honestly, this is gonna be controversial. I think Shiren the Wanderer on Switch is also gonna be very, very good. Um,
Mhm.
top 5 RPG, yes. I'm a purist when it comes to that game. So like any changes, like even in comics or comic movies, like if it doesn't completely stick to the comic story, I'm against it. So I'm an annoying purist. So
Yeah.
I admit that.
Yeah. Actually, I disagree with you there. I have no attachment to the original. I
Yeah,
played it for the first
that's
time
fine.
this year.
Yeah.
So when I played it and the remake within the same month. So when I saw what they did, I'm like, I actually am a fan of it. I'm
That's
curious
fine.
to
Yeah,
see
I mean,
where they go with it from
yeah,
now.
I played the original at launch, and that was probably one of the more magical like gaming
Mhm.
experiences I've
Yeah.
had. So yeah, I can understand like having the remake be your first and being completely okay with that. And don't get me wrong, great game. It's just not. It's not what I imagined when they announced it like 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Just assume
Yeah,
they
that's
were
fair.
bringing the whole game over the way it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, I maybe I was silly in thinking that they would. But when Monolith Soft was able to, and it doesn't look as good as that, but when Monolith Soft was able to bring the whole game over, make it look better, add way more content,
Mhm.
that kind of resonated with me more than taking a piece of a game and then expanding it out. But
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see now what part 2 is going to be like. I'm
Me
just
too.
very curious.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'd like to see it soon. I'm hoping we see it like spring 2022. I think would be a great. Like if it's another like 3+ year wait, that would be way too long.
If you're having to wait in between all of these different parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone
Yeah.
who has not even played the original, Logan playing it right before.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have no attachment, and it's fine because I'm playing it and I don't know what's new and what's not. So playing through a
Mhm.
section and then be like, "Oh, that was fun," and then Logan comes and tells me, "Oh yeah, that wasn't in the original." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It
Yeah.
was fine, and I feel like for a lot of people that didn't play the original, that's probably their thought process. But I can totally understand for people who played this, growing up, and this is like a monumental game. Like this has played a big part in a lot of people's lives, and to have that be changed in some ways is kind of hard to take sometimes.
Mhm.
So I can totally
Yeah,
understand
absolutely.
people who have grown really attached to the original. But for me, I'm having a
Yeah.
good time. So, and that's about it. So why don't we transition over to another RPG, one that we've all played, Dragon Quest XI. We've got the definitive edition coming to PS4, to Xbox One. And now that we have Stealth on, who's also played that game, we thought we'd finally talk about it. Although we don't have Zach, which
Who also loves that game? Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we've all played it.
Mhm.
But we thought that now was a good time to talk about Dragon Quest. So again, Stealth, you're the guest.
You got the time, Stealth? We've been going over an hour. You got time to stick around and talk about Dragon
Oh, I
Quest
do,
XI?
yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure.
So before we get into Dragon Quest XI proper, probably a good idea to talk about where we stand with the series in terms of past games that we played. So, Stealth, for you first, what's your history with Dragon Quest before 11?
I had the first Dragon Quest when it launched on NES. I've owned every Dragon Quest game, every main game, every side game. I've even imported the games that never came out here. Probably my favorite RPG series. Played many of the games more than once. So yeah. I don't consider myself. I mean, I'm a super fan, I guess.
So I want to ask. I remember following you on Twitter when 11 was coming out, and you waited. You waited the year after the PS4 version for the Switch. What was the thought process for that?
One of the harder waits that I've had, and I got a lot of flack for that.
Yeah.
only because right before, like, I think it was like 2 months before the PS4 release or somewhere around that time frame, Hori, the director producer of the series, said that the Switch version was going to get more content, or it was going to be different. He didn't directly say it was going to have more content, but he implied it. He implied it. So I was like, okay, I can either play the PS4 version and then play the Switch version, which I was pretty sure was going to have more content. Just because pretty much all the enhanced ports of Dragon Quest games do. So I was like, I can either play it now and then play it later, but not. I don't know. I just wanted to play like the game with the complete experience. I didn't know how to describe it because I didn't even know what the content was. But I just decided to hold off over a year, and yeah, I mean, somehow I stayed unspoiled for everything until someone. I stayed unspoiled until someone like was being a jerk and like tweeted at me a major spoiler like right as I was about to start the definitive edition. So that was kind of a bummer. But yeah, I waited.
That's impressive that you waited. I knew, knowing that you're a fan of the series from the original, I feel like a lot of those people wouldn't even be waiting for the localized version and would get the Japanese version first. So I'm surprised.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad I did because the Switch version is better. It's significantly better than the PS4 version.
And
so
actually, I'm a little bit envious because I still haven't seen that new content. I played like 80 hours of the PS4 version, and then 25 or so of the Switch version. I didn't get to the main new stuff.
It's not a ton of like brand new like Switch exclusive content. There's a few side stories that fit into the game, but they're not long.
Okay.
The big deal is that it took the 3DS content and put it in the Switch version, which means you can play the game completely as an SNES game.
Yeah.
Sprites as exactly as an SNES game would look.
Random encounters too.
Random encounter, yeah, everything. The way the battle menu looks, straight ahead, everything, and then also, there's a 3DS exclusive SNES looking town, where you can visit like prior Dragon Quest areas in 2D, which is also very cool.
I did a little bit of that. It was cool.
And that was 3DS content. So yeah, I mean, this is the Switch version took all the 3DS content, added some new content, added some quality of life changes. It doesn't look as pretty as the PS4 version, obviously, but other than that, it's the better version.
Yeah, so I had never played a Dragon Quest before 11, but I'd always been interested in the series. I remember I wanted to play 8 when it got brought to 3DS a few years ago, but never got around to it. And then there was that Kotaku review from Tim Rogers, which was extremely well done. I watched it, and I think like a lot of people, after watching that, it totally worked on me, and I'm like, I have to play this game. So I got it on launch day, absolutely fell in love with it. Zach picked it up shortly after, Kevin a couple months later, and yeah, I fell in love with it immediately. Like, I love that just classic JRPG feel, but what gets me away from a lot of classic JRPGs is that the quality of life stuff isn't there. And it is in Dragon Quest XI. It is such like an easy game to play. There is really nothing holding it back from being a very welcoming, warming experience. And so I adored that game immediately, and it didn't stale at all over its 70+ hour runtime for me.
Yeah. As for me, first Dragon Quest game I played was 9. That was the DS one, I think.
DS.
Yeah.
Guys. And I didn't like it as a kid. I know that a big deal of that one at the time was being able to play it multiplayer. And I didn't have anybody else to play that game with. And the only RPGs I had really played at the time too extensively was Pokemon. So I think it was a little much, and not having another person to play it with, I've heard that is the definitive way to play it. So I never got into it. And then after that, didn't really even think about Dragon Quest until Logan picked it up and then was like, yo, this game real good. You should pick it up. And then when it was on sale, I was like, all right, I may as well. And I also had a similar experience early on in the game where I'm like, yeah, this is really good. You have those moments very early on with the characters, with the quality of life, not having random encounters, having some of those features where I'm like, okay, this is the definitive version of an old school style JRPG that I want. And I had that feeling pretty early on.
Well, I definitely dated myself saying that my first one was the NES one.
Yeah.
Stealth, what were your thoughts in your initial first couple of hours? Was it boom? This is it. This is what I want right off the bat.
Not immediate. I mean, yeah, I knew it was gonna be good. I was enjoying it. I was having fun. But then it probably wasn't until the middle where I was like, okay, this is a very special game. And then, toward the end, I was like, yeah, this is amazing. Just the twists and the turns of the story and everything else. There's some parts of it that aren't as polished as I would have liked, but yeah, I mean, the first few hours of the game are slower and kind of are a little bit more cliche, I guess. There's a lot of cliche in the game. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I mean, yeah, the combat's classic combat. The world is good. I mean, the music's amazing. So yeah, I mean, right away I was hooked. Like
in the Switch version, the music is amazing.
Yeah, in the Switch
version, it's not that amazing.
Yeah, it's the orchestra. Yeah, that's true.
I am looking forward
that is very true.
Music whenever I pick up the definitive edition.
Yeah.
Let's get into some different aspects of the game. We may as well start.
So spoilery from this point on. We're going to talk about it. Yeah.
With characters and story. So this is the most spoilery section. The game's been out for a little while, so you've had the time. But if you're waiting for that PS4, Xbox One version of the definitive edition,
it's going to be on Game Pass, which is awesome.
Yeah, for all 10 JRPG fans on
fans on Xbox. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same 10 people that picked up Final Fantasy 15 on
Xbox One, yeah.
People that are picking up Dragon Quest 11.
Yeah.
But I think one of the strongest aspects of Dragon Quest is just the cast of characters that you meet as you go along through the game. I don't know about you guys, but that was one of my favorite parts of the game, was just seeing all of these characters interact with one another and just seeing the different range of characters, where you've got just the main normal hero that doesn't say anything. That's standard. And then you have just like the sidekick friend, the buddy friend. You have the weird old dude. You have the mage. You have whatever Sylvando is, just the crazy eccentric.
Okay,
dude.
You say weird old dude, but he's a pervert old dude. He's Master Roshi.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
But I feel like they each serve their niche character really well. What do you guys think of the characters?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked them when they're together, and then as part of the story they get blown apart, and then you kind of see them individually, and then they come together again. But yeah, I mean, each character shares like certain weapons or skills on the grid, but you can put together some very unique parties. That are different. Like some might excel more toward magic or healing, but generally you can play with anybody, I think. But yeah, I mean, the cast of characters, I mean, Sylvando is amazing. He's probably the most like unique character, like a jester character.
And his whole plot with Prince Ferris, when you are introduced to him, it's one of the best parts of the game. How they introduce Sylvando in how he's trying to fix this kid who just doesn't care about anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great introduction plot arc.
I mean, honestly, I don't know why I wasn't expecting Hendrik, like the fallen knight, to join your party too, because he's been a villain for like 60 hours.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, for it to be different was interesting. But yeah, I like all the characters. I like the banter between Eric. I forget that I haven't played it in a while, but I think I know the names. Eric. What's the short blonde character's name? Veronica. I like that banter between them. And how you kind of there's an overall story, but there's also a story with each of them. Like a side story. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, and it's so cool how this overarching story is, especially in the first act, is almost the most basic JRPG plot you can get. But the side stories and these towns that you visit and the people you interact with, like the Prince Ferris one I was just talking about, the mermaid quest where you're trying to reunite these two lovers who had a kind of it turned out poorly for them.
I mean, the fact that characters come back around again later on, and they're. I guess we can talk spoilers now, where basically, you go back in time. You play through the dark timeline, but then you go back in time and you switch things, and then there's different bosses and everything is different, and all the characters are different. Is really cool.
Yeah, and you have an option to redo some of these quests. You get that conch shell, right? And it's like you can go and redo the mermaid quest, and it plays out a little bit differently this time. Like, that's just so cool. I just love how it does that in its third act, and it didn't feel like padding to me. It felt like valuable new content, in my opinion.
Yeah, it felt like you were fixing, or you were getting it feels like you got like the normal ending, but then you go back and you get the best ending. But getting the best ending takes like 30 hours. That's how it felt like.
It's like if Ocarina of Time continued past the end.
Yeah.
Which it's just I love that time travel aspect of it. It is just it's really cool. Kev, do you have a favorite story part?
Favorite story part. Okay, so we're getting into full spoilers here.
Yeah.
So a lot of this game is you can see a lot of things coming. Even being like, oh, you got to go and do the Dark World stuff. I mean, that.
I think you're about to say the point that was spoiled for me, but we'll see.
Veronica dying.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Oh, man.
It sucks that you got spoiled on that, because that was the one thing in a game where I love it, but it, you can't see a lot of the stuff coming before you get there. That was the one moment where I'm like, I did not predict that. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, and honestly, when it was spoiled for me, it wasn't malicious. It was just like, I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks that I was playing it, and then someone DM'd me, "Oh, are you at the part where Veronica died?" Assuming I already got there. I'm like, "What? Veronica dies?" And then I tweeted about spoilers, about not assuming. Because that really bummed me out. Because
that's a bummer.
Because I would not have, out of everybody, not her.
Right. So. If we're talking specific story moments, going back and doing everything again was really cool. But for a game that is kind of by the numbers in some aspects, to have a moment that completely caught me off guard story-wise,
I mean,
my favorite moment.
Yeah, and that moment in particular where you're gathering up all your friends, and it becomes clear that she's like the last one, because you get everybody else first. And then you see her dying or dead, with everybody in your party, and then it's just a bad moment. I mean, even though I was spoiled for it, it still affects me. But the fact that you can go back, alter one thing that happens, and then everything else after that is like a completely different timeline. Is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and which is cool because, Kev, I think you just mentioned also that's one of my favorite parts of the game, but specifically when her sister Serena does cut off her hair in kind of like a way of remembrance and sacrifice, and that's just a beautiful cutscene.
Yeah, and then she becomes a super mage.
Yeah, she's amazing from that point on.
Yeah, she's a healer, black, everything.
Yeah, so that's a really great moment.
Yeah.
And one of my other favorite story moments, Stealth, you mentioned it, is when Hendrik does join your team. That's a cool moment. Yeah, and he turns out to be my favorite party member, not from a combat perspective, but from a story perspective.
But what's really cool, he joins you in the dark timeline, but then when you go back, he's still your enemy for a bit, and then through different circumstances, he joins your party again. As a friend, which is awesome. That's a good moment.
Yeah, so that was really cool. But yeah, I really, really enjoy the story of this game. Just the 3-act structure is great. And like we were kind of saying, if you want it to end after you beat Morrigan and Veronica is dead, you have that choice. That is an ending. But if you want to put in that extra time, grind up to beat Kalasmos, who, oh boy, that is a tough boss fight, then you can do that. And I think that's just really, really cool that it's almost like its own sequel within this game in its own final act.
Yeah, I'll talk about one more, and this is where you save the hero's father, who's basically being tormented by like this nightmare enemy, who's basically he's dead, he's a ghost, but he's reliving his torment of not being able to save his wife and his child, and so you have to defeat the boss that's haunting him. And I think you do it in the dark timeline, and everything is good. But then when you have the option when you're in the light timeline to go back and save him again, and it's a harder boss, and then you get his armor. He leaves his armor, which is a really cool moment. So yeah, that's a good one. Where you're actually saving the hero's father.
That one is really, really cool. I like that a lot too. I actually thought he was going to join your party briefly. Yeah. I thought, I'm like, no ways, is our dad about to join us? But then he goes to join your mom or whatever it is. But I thought he was going to join the party.
That would have been a little bit of a curveball.
Yeah,
Dad's here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I also love the tournament arc with Vince, who is like this really nice guy, and then you figure out he is doing some shady stuff underneath the orphanage.
But he's still a nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He's just trying to protect these orphans.
And then, that town becomes like a monster casino gambling town. How everything changes. It's just crazy how in each arc, the towns just change and the world changes. And even like, the field enemies are first they're normal, then in the second arc they get like red eyes, then they become like different monsters, and then in the third arc they become like dark monsters. So it's just they know like the difficulty ramps up, and then like even the monsters change.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Speaking of that world, may as well hop into that now. Just the world and overall presentation. The game is gorgeous, but specifically the different areas that it has you go to, and how each of these different towns that you're visiting has just a completely different feel from all the other towns that you go to. At one point, you're in a hot spring town. At the other point, you're in the tournament place that turns into a casino at a later point. There's the port town. Like there's so many different varied towns that you go to that it feels like a world. And I think that is a really strong aspect of the game in terms of its overall world, is that you do feel like you're exploring a world, going up into the north or like going underwater. Like it is an expansive world, and each place that I went to felt completely different from this town or settlement or wherever that you're going to.
Yeah, you mentioned the hot spring town. The writing in that one's amazing because they all speak in haiku, and it's just so cool. It's like that's all localized, and it's just amazing writing that they can still tell the story with that writing style.
Yeah, I think the towns are all great. I mean, the overworld is kind of limited. It's kind of point A to point B. It's not like Xenoblade, which is very open. You find different things on the map that are interesting, or like a landmark. The overworld is a means to an end to get to the great towns.
Yeah, that is true. Which I don't personally mind because I'm not like the biggest fan of these overwhelming open world games. Dragon Quest, I don't really 11 doesn't really overwhelm you. Like
I find it refreshing.
Yeah, I like that linear structure where you can find the sparkly spots or the treasure chests in these wide areas, but it really is about getting to that next location that's marked on your map, and I didn't mind that at all. But yeah, the towns are gorgeous and definitely the highlight of the world.
Yeah.
And the exploration is better when you don't have random encounters, where if you do want to not just running into a bunch of battles. That was another thing that when I booted up the game and saw random encounters are gone, I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because I knew that I could explore. Because when you go into like actual dungeons in more traditional JRPGs, I loathe those because I know that there's items on the optional path that I could go down. But then I'm gonna have to sit through like 3 or 4 fights just to get down there. Maybe there's nothing, and maybe I just wasted my time. But being
and your items, maybe
my items, if I have to heal or something, or MP or something like that, I'd have to waste something. So it makes exploring the world even easier, having random encounters be gone and being able to see all the enemies on the overworld. That's nice.
Yeah, and I like the enemies that you kill then take over and like ride around on them use them to get to different places. That's really cool. Yeah, like it's pretty simple once you get in those machines, but it's just cool, mixes up traversal even just a little bit in that game. It's really nice.
Yeah, I forgot about those. those. Yeah, the rideable dudes, like slime dudes.
Yeah.
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 We have been going a long time. Why don't we just roll right into the gameplay? It is pretty standard in terms of JRPGs, in terms of its combat, but I think probably the biggest addition that it has is the pet power system that it introduces. What are your guys' thoughts on the basic overall combat as well as the introduction of the pet powers? Stealth, you want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, the base combat is standard turn-based JRPG stuff. There's nothing too unique about that. You have your attacks, your magic, your tactics, items and things like that. Fun. The battles, some battles can drag on. But yeah, I mean, there are some quests where where multiple party members need to be powered up at the same time, or you need to use one of those powers as the killing blow. Which if you don't, you have to try
so
and
brutal. Yeah.
do it all over again. That was annoying, but the basics of okay, so depending on what party member you're powered up, you get special moves is pretty cool. And the fact that they tied into some of the story quests where maybe your character has a moment of growth and then he gets a new move. I like that.
Yeah, I really like the pet powers. It's fun that it feels like the slot machine is constantly going behind the scenes because you don't know when you're going to get pet powered up. It's random. So when it happens, it's like a really good feeling and can, in some cases, turn the tide of the battle.
I mean, there are items you get later on that automatically give it to you, but you don't get those for a long time.
Yeah, and then
then it's like you can't buy the rare.
Yeah, they're expensive. They eventually get added to the cobblestone town shop way late in the game, but they're so expensive. So yeah, those aren't really a viable option. But yeah, I really like the combat system. I thought it was a lot of fun.
You save those for the late game grind too. You really want to use those over the whole gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do like the aspect of pairing the different pet powers. It's another way to think about how you want to set up your party, because maybe with your current setup you think you have everything fine, and then you realize that there's a couple of pet powers that you can't take advantage of because a certain character that needs to be on there for the pet power to work isn't there. So you have to kind of mix and match to have both what characters' regular attacks you like to have, as well as the specific pet powers you want to be able to use.
And the interesting strategy is when someone does power up, you can pull them out of the party and they keep it until you need them to do the move.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, which I also love that you can just swap your party during a battle and that everyone on the bench gets experience. It's just
Oh yeah, you don't have to.
It's great.
People in for that. God.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the pet power's really good system. That grind at the end, just go on that for a second. If we have to talk about one thing that's not so great about that, the game, just the end game grind in order to beat the final boss, and that final section where you're going back and refighting a lot of the same bosses to get to a point where you just grind on end. You have to look up just the special way to grind so it doesn't take forever, and it's a really specific way with the pet powers, being able to use it so you get a max amount of experience with certain enemies.
Spawning the metal slimes with the pet power was a godsend in that final grind.
Yeah, and it was the one moment in the game where everything dragged. Up to that point, I couldn't point to a moment in the game where I'm like, yeah, this isn't any fun. And then I got to the grind at the end, I'm like, this is brutal, because that last
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's hard. I grinded, and there's I forget this character's name or even where, but where you can choose like different like prize options. One of them's marriage, and there's some bosses there. The last boss I still couldn't beat, even at my current level. I had beaten the final boss, but I went back. I couldn't beat like the second to last or the last super boss. I couldn't do. The game is hard. But you have to. It requires grinding.
Yeah,
definitely.
Which you really didn't need to do up until that point. It felt kind of jarring at the end because you're rolling along and and it doesn't feel like it forces you to go off and do a bunch of unnecessary.
There are some interesting difficulty spikes that I found where some bosses are just much harder than others.
The gold boss, when you're saving Mia, Eric's sister, that boss is brutal. That one took me a long time.
And others are, I mean, even like bosses right after really hard ones are easy and then it gets hard again. So I think I mentioned that. I think I tweeted about that where like the difficulty like spikes are a little inconsistent.
Yeah. That's a very small gripe. Like if that's the main thing you can point to, that's a pretty dang
But
good game.
I mean at the end it's just hard. There's no way of getting around it.
Grind up to level
for sure.
100 in that boss fight is so brutal. Level 100, I still hit that final boss on like my last turn before he's about to kill me. So.
Yep, same.
But that's like the case with like every Dragon Quest game. There's always post game like super bosses. I remember Dragon Quest 7. I don't know if either of you have played that one.
No, isn't that one like 140 hours to get to the end of?
Well, the PS4 version is longer than the 3DS version, but they're still both enormous. Like the super hidden boss actually is God, and it's God as like the caricature with the white beard and the robe, and he's just named God. Yeah, he just named God, and it's just hard. And but like every game, like every Dragon Quest game has these like end game super bosses that require grinding. Dragon Quest 8 has you fight the different dragons, and then you fight like the ultimate dragon. But like again, like all those post game bosses are hard.
So we should probably get going, but Stealth, I do want to ask you if someone like us played 11 and loved it, what one should they go to next?
8 is definitely next. Then maybe surprising Dragon Quest 5.
That's actually the one I'm most interested in. 5 is
Dragon
really
Quest 5 is on DS, but I warn you, it's going to cost you $100 to get that version. If you pirate, I'll turn around and you can do it. I won't look. But Dragon Quest 5, it's really known as the game where, you know, they hated the hero, where just so many bad things happen to the hero that, you know, it's kind of known for that. The story itself is amazing. I won't go in any deeper into it than that, but Dragon Quest 5 is definitely really, really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Was that it, Kev?
I think that is. Before we go, Stealth, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Stealth40K. I haven't streamed often, but I'm also Stealth40K there. I'm gonna get back into it, but you can find me on Twitter.
All right. That is going to do it for us on this week's episode of OD Games. We're here on Fridays as well as the occasional Saturdays when something like this happens, but we're usually here on Fridays on our website, odgames.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use. We're on Twitter at OD Games. We're also on Twitch at OD Games as well. And you can send an email.
Don't stream often.
we'll get into it at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
You can send an email to odgamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and
Stealth,
I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.